Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
The father of personal development, Jim Rohn, said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And so I've created a mastermind community called the Lion's Den around this idea that if you are surrounded by high-performing people and you have consistent education and training, then you will succeed in life and as a man. Check out kfmlion.com to learn how the Lion's Den can take your life, relationships, and business to the next level. Again, that's kfmlion.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Lamont, the author of This Is Why You're Single, a book that hit number 3 on Amazon's bestseller list within 48 hours of being released, and excited to have him on the show. I got some questions here laid out for him. So, Aaron, happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. So every show we kickstart with, Aaron, a favorite success quote of the guest or a saying that they've lived by. So what do you got for us? And if you can explain why you chose that.
I would say don't give your heart to someone, or don't give your heart to anyone just to have someone. And I kind of live by that. That was basically what I wrote the book under that pretense, because so many people just want to have someone to fill a void, men and women and whatnot. So I would say don't give your heart away so easily just to have someone in your life. You have to take what you deserve. So that's a quote that I live by.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the, that might be the answer to your book. This is why you're single. It's because people, right. It's so easy to just give your heart away, and then you have someone, and then you end up not being with the right person.
Absolutely. It's over. We're done, Andrew. No, it's funny because people have take care. I'll talk to you later. No, people have a propensity to take what is given to them, not knowing that they have a right to take what they deserve. There's a huge difference. So you don't have to take lying. You don't have to take cheating. You don't have to take selfishness. You take what you feel you deserve. If you feel you deserve those things, well, you need to reevaluate yourself. But, don't take what's given to you. Take what you deserve. So that's why.
That's very powerful.
Thank you.
And I think that kind of gives us a good idea of where we're going with the show. Before we hit on the topic of your book, This Is Why You're Single, and going into that, deep dive in that, let's take a few steps back and kind of let's learn more about you, the author, Aaron Lamont, and how you got started with this. So go ahead, take the mic, or I guess your phone.
Sure.
Share with the audience, how you got started with this and kind of like building up to the book and why you wrote it.
Sure. Well, I actually wrote the book. It's because of my mother. She was single for about 15 years. And I like to say she was happily single, Andrew. She was deep in her career. She was always traveling. She cooked for me and my baby sister all the time. She was just really happy. And fast forward, I actually introduced her to her husband, and they've been happily married for years now. So if we go to about 6 or 7 months ago, my mother gave me a call. It was about 4 a.m. my time because I'm out in L.A., and she's still in Columbus, Ohio. And she said, "Hey, son, how are you doing? How's it going?" And I kind of chuckled like, "Hey, Mom, it's 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm good. Are you okay?" And, she was like, no, I'm good. I want you to do something for me. Like it was a simple task. And I said, "Okay, what's going on, Mom?" She said, "I want you to write a book." And I said, a book? What about what? And she said, "Well, what do you know most about?" I was like, "Well, relationships. I know a lot about relationships. So is that where you're going with this?" And she was like, "Yes." She said, "Every time I come to visit my baby boy, you always have friends asking me, what do I do in this situation with this girl? What do I do in this situation with this guy, or et cetera?" So she said, "Why not put your knowledge that you've gained over the years into book form and do that?" So, I was like, my mom is Marilyn Scott. She's Oprah's ambassador of hope. It's not somebody you're going to turn down a task from. So I said, okay, I did it. It took me about 3.5 months to do. Then with the publishing and editing, about another 3 months. And here we are. This Is Why You're Single. It's come to fruition, but it was a very vindicating process, Andrew. Like I learned so much about myself and my experiences and, from the people I interviewed. And it was just great. It was cool.
Wow. Okay, so that was a deep dive, about how the book got started. That your mom just called you, told you to do it, and here you are now.
Exactly.
You said, she called you and she said, like, what are you good at? And you said, oh, relationships. So how did you get good at relationships, or how did you really, let's just say, like, get a deeper understanding of relationships, more so than the average person?
I think I can bring that back to my mother once again. I was raised by a single mom, and just the way she raised me and the love that she gave me gave me a better understanding for the way people should be treated in general. And so the relationships that I had with these amazing women throughout my life, I was able to give them a different kind of like care and love because of what I received from my mother. So it was cool. I was chivalrous. I would open the doors, pull out the chairs, stand up when a woman leaves the table. The things that men typically don't do nowadays are the things that I do, and it stands out, and women love that. So, it was kind of, I would say that's why. Yeah.
So what are some of those things that you do that guys aren't doing as often as they maybe used to in the past?
Yeah, I mean, something as simple as opening the car door or opening a door for a woman, or if you're walking down the street, moving them to the inside and you walking closer to the street and them being on the inside of you. Just those natural things that a guy is supposed to do that you kind of overlook, in certain situations. But yeah, just simple things, because I get pointed all the time. And I live in LA now, so often when I say, ma'am or sir, or open a door for a woman, or compliment them on what they're wearing, or whatever the case may be, they're like, well, where are you from? You're not from around here. They could tell that I have a different demeanor and a different charm about me than some of the LA guys that they might encounter or be used to. So it's those things that set you apart, being a man. You want to have different standards for yourself, and that'll take you far in life.
So it sounds like you're bringing back the lost art of being a gentleman.
Absolutely. Chivalry is not dead. It's just depends on the type of man a woman wants to date, and vice versa.
And so now you've written the book. This is why you're single. So many questions here. It's a topic that, I didn't start this whole podcast, around relationships, but, it's tended to shift in that direction as as the questions just keep arising through email. It's like, all right, I'll get some guys on. So
sure.
There's a lot of guys. I'll focus on, a specific demographic here, and it's a lot of guys are single and they're kind of getting older, let's say late 20s, 30s, and they're watching a lot of their friends, getting married, and settling down and having a family.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those guys that are still single, and it's like they feel like they're doing okay, but it's just socially like, hey, why are you single? Is there something wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I could say there, but there's 3 tips I give my friends when they're upset about being single and whatnot. And I'll keep it simple and I'll elaborate later. But for now, I say, 1, define the right you, because if you're not happy with yourself and happy with your career, happy in your life, and you're not smiling at the person that's looking and reflecting back at you in the mirror, then how can you possibly make someone else happy? You're going to transfer negativity or whatever it is you're lacking into that relationship. So although you might be afraid of being alone or not wanting to feel alone, you have to be whole yourself before you can transfer into or transcend into a new healthy relationship. So I tell my boys and my friends and even women, define the right you first, because you should be whole. I hear people say, I want to find my better half or my other whole and whatnot, but you should be whole by yourself first. So that's the first thing, is defining the right you. The second is to never settle. And that goes back to the first point. You're not going to settle if you define the right you. You know your self-value, you know your self-worth, you'll take what you deserve. So don't settle just to be in a relationship. And I think, women and men have a propensity to do that. They just take what's given to them so that they're not alone, they're not by themselves, because being single has a negative connotation. But being single is not a bad thing. If you know why you're single and you're happily single, like in my case, or my mother's case, for 15 years, she was happy. Not one day did I ever see her feel as though she was alone or she needed someone. I introduced her to someone because she was so happy. And I met someone else that was that happy in his life as well and said, hey, you guys are just a match made in heaven. You guys are both all by yourself. You guys are both great. Meet up. So never settle. And the third step I tell people to take is baby steps. Don't go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 just to fill that void. you can't be in a healthy relationship if you don't take the appropriate baby steps. Talking and then dating and then defining the boundaries and being in a committed relationship. People want to just jump into a relationship and say, "Hey, I'm in love. Let's get married." That's not the way it works. It's not that easy. Sometimes people date for years before they even really get a true understanding for that person. So being single, don't feel as though you're by yourself and it's a bad thing. Take that time to learn more about yourself so that you can become the best you and then transcend into a healthy relationship.
Very powerful. 3 steps: define the right you, be happy, be a whole person first, never settle, know your self-worth.
Yes.
And so like looking for someone who is equally, not trying to settle, looking for the right person who is equally happy. And then I like, baby step, which is just enjoy the dating process, enjoy that time instead of like having kids immediately, getting married immediately, which can often lead you in a relationship where now it's like you're tied together legally and then you have children, which makes it really challenging.
Exactly.
So that gives us an understanding of the advice to a guy who's single and looking forward. It gives them hope. It gives them kind of the aspiration to all right, this isn't so bad, I could start doing that. Now, let's say someone is in a relationship and he goes from relationship to relationship.
Right.
Advice for this guy who keeps finding himself single and back in a relationship for just a few months or a year, and then he's kind of on and off and not able to connect.
Yeah, well, Andrew, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting different results. And in that case, you need to figure out what's not working. And I tell people, figure out why you're single. Figure out, do you even really necessarily want a relationship, or are you just trying to fill a void? Because more oftentimes than not, people that are jumping from relationship to relationship, they have baggage, they have trust issues, they have negativity that they're going to transfer to relationship, and that's why they're not lasting. They haven't had the necessary closure. They haven't gained the closure that they need in order to move forward in a healthy manner. So they're just jumping from relationship to relationship that's never going to last, and that's why they're single. But they don't know that because they haven't figured out why they're single. They haven't figured out what they need to do in order to become a more healthy, happy individual, to have a relationship that will last and have substance. Because if you're just jumping from person to person, of course it's not going to last. And of course you're going to end up by yourself again because you're doing the same thing, expecting different results, and you're not going to gain those results because you haven't defined the right you yet. You haven't taken the appropriate steps. You haven't gotten the closure necessary in order for you to proceed.
This looks like a really good strategy, too, for a guy who is, or even a woman, but this is just mainly men listening, but let's say they're just recently single and still like deeply in love with their ex-girlfriend, or even maybe it could have been a divorce. Instead of trying to get the ex back, maybe it's time to define the right you, as you would say.
Right, absolutely. Go inward first. Go inward. Definitely have to go inward sometimes before you can move on. Figure out how you're functioning. Where's your mindset at? People have a tendency to just care about finding someone else to help them out, but where is your mindset? What do you want for yourself? What are you looking for? Figure that out first.
Yeah. Understanding themselves and what they value.
Right.
Now, it could also be where there's a couple and things look good on the external, but they find themselves like pretty bored of each other after sex. Like it seems like sex is the only thing that's really, maybe that's all this guy wants, and it's like he's in a relationship, but like all he really wanted was sex, and he's not really too excited about the relationship, but he does like sex, and he just doesn't have the necessary experience to really either break off or be upfront.
I see what you're saying. No, I would say that's a couple that people say opposite attract, but I don't necessarily believe in that. I think you should find someone that is aligned with your likes, your dislikes, and whatnot, because after sex, like you said, that's the easy part. The physical attraction that you have with someone and, the intimate aspect and sex and whatnot, that's easy. That's the easiest part of any relationship. But after that, what's left? If it's not bills and kids, what do you have in common? So I would find someone that has similar attributes and desires to myself. And I think that's what men should do. They should find someone, if they like to hike and they like to work out and they like to cook and they like to travel and they like sports, find someone that's similarly aligned with you mentally and intellectually, so that you have something other than sex. You can talk to them about sports if you're a sports fanatic, or you can talk to them about current events and politics and Obama's healthcare plan or whatever the case may be. You can talk to them. You can communicate, because the biggest part of any relationship, above and beyond sex, although that's a misconception, people think that's it. It is communication. You have to be able to communicate with your partner about your problems, about your likes, about your dislikes, about your wants, about your desires, about your future. So if there is no common ground, no commonality, then it's like, what else is there? Obviously, the sex is going to get boring after a while if there's nothing else to coexist with it.
Yeah, that was great. That was exactly the direction I was going. And then in the unlikely event that this continues, obviously this relationship is almost setting itself up for an end or for failure. What other reasons do you feel like relationships fail? Like, why do relationships fail?
Well, again, yeah, like I was saying, baggage, negative experiences, or being cheated on, or whatever the case may be, and not having gained that closure to move on. And people have a tendency to move on without fixing those issues. And even for myself, while writing this book, I won't say I had unresolved issues, but I did learn. It did give me some closure with certain situations and certain relationships that I had with women, where I was like, wow, I could have done this differently, or maybe I should have spoken up and said this. So, yeah, I think that people just need to understand that they need to figure it out first. People have a tendency to ask the question, why? Like, why didn't this work? Or why didn't I do this? But that's not really the right question to ask if you're trying to figure something out and gain the necessary answer and gain closure in order for you to move on. I tell people to ask who, what, when, where. Ask the right qualifying questions to get to the answer. Because if I were to say, Andrew, why did you go to the store? You're going to say, well, I went to go pick up a couple of things. But if I said, Andrew, what did you go to the store for? You're going to say, oh, well, I went to get, milk and cookies and a bottle of wine, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to get a more direct answer. And I think people don't ask the direct question, because when you say why, you're giving someone the ability to avoid asking the question. I had a woman I was dating for a while. We were on the beach, and she looked at me, and it was real serene. The sun was setting. We were there. We were relaxing. Everything was great. And she looked at me. I thought she was going to lean in for a kiss or just ask me a question. She said, when did you fall out of love with me? And I was so, caught off guard and taken aback. I didn't even have a chance to really, try and give her an answer. I was just, wow, I realized that I had fallen out of love with her. But if she had said, Aaron, why did you fall out of love with me? I would have tried to rationalize and say, no, what are you talking about? Or I'm still in love with you. Or give some sort of answer so that I'm not hurting her feelings, or whatever the case may be. So ask the right questions, and then that will help you to get to the point you want to get to.
Yeah, I know Anthony Robbins has a quote. It says, the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. So, apply that into relationships too.
Right. It is absolutely true with relationships.
So guy's single. He's happy with himself. He's got a great job. He's social. He's got his life together. He could do this for a while, and, he's not settling. Now, what are your recommendations for guys who are single in terms of where should they go to meet these, high quality girls, or meet the type of girls they're looking for? Because just being the right guy alone is just going to come. I don't know if you've seen the Axe commercial where he sprays Axe and then thousands of girls just start chasing him. It's so once a guy,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd buy that Axe for sure.
Exactly.
What can he do?
No, I would say,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say, well, for someone that's busy, and I think most successful men are, like myself, I'm in Orlando right now, and then Chicago tomorrow, and then back in LA. I don't really have the time to go searching for a woman, that has these great qualities and this and that. I just honestly don't have the time, and they're not magically going to appear either. But I will say that I've met some amazing women online, and I'm not talking Match.com or, some love triangle. I'm talking regular social networks like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I'm not saying to go on there and search for a woman, but you never know. You might have an amazing woman in front of you. And I have met some amazing women just organically and naturally through conversation, and met up with them and, had a coffee, and it's developed into something further. So I would say use what's at the tip of your hands. You have a phone, you have technology on you all the time. And if you're not someone that, has the ability to go out and, mingle and go to networking events or whatever the case, I don't know where women, where the good women hang out, but I can say that you can find out a lot about a woman on her social networking site by the type of pictures she puts up, by the type of people she has around. and you can gain a lot of knowledge on that woman and ask the right questions up front. So you're not wasting time, or taking them out to BOA and spending the $250 on dinner, and then you find out this woman can't talk to you about anything aside from her selfies that she takes and uploads to Instagram. So it's a matter of, using the resources you have to your advantage. And I think the internet and, social networking sites can definitely be one of those things.
Oh, yeah. She's taking selfies. Well, it depends if they're good selfies, right?
Yeah, it depends on the lighting.
All right. So let's see here. You have a chapter that in the book called The Infamous W's. What was that?
That was what we just talked about. That was the why, asking the right question, and the who, the what, the when, the where. That's one of my favorite chapters, definitely.
And what does it mean to be entitled?
Entitlement. I think men and women have that, but more so women. They feel entitled to have a certain caliber of man, but I feel that that's a lot of times on the parents because they've raised women a certain way to go out to the doctors and the athletes and whatnot. But entitlement is huge. Women expect men to be the provider and to pay for dinner and to pay for dates and to pay for travel. And that's all fine and dandy. I definitely want to provide for my woman and whatnot. But if you expect that, I just want you to have, or as men in general should want women to have, the same expectations of themselves. If you want me to make six figures, well, I hope you have a pretty good job yourself. If you want me to take care of myself and take care of you, I hope that you can take care of yourself, and myself if the need be. So entitlement is huge, but you just have to have the same type of expectations for yourself. And if that's the case, then by all means, feel entitled, because that's not such an aspect of not settling. If you feel entitled because you know your worth, but have that worth, have that value if you expect it of somebody else.
All right. I like that. And now let's move into the knowledge round. So I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for the knowledge round?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
Do you feel stuck, alone, or like you're not getting the type of results you think you deserve? You put in all the hard work in your life, relationships, and business, but things just aren't getting any better? I've been there. That's how I started. That's where I was. I kept trying to improve my life, but nothing just seemed to give. I started to think that personal development was a joke. I felt like every month I was in the same place I was the previous month. But then I found something that just worked. I grew, my business grew, my relationships flourished, and everything around me just started to click. People started respecting me more, and I finally felt like I was becoming the man I wanted to be. I created a program to help guys get the same results in their life. Check out kfmline.com to learn how the Lion's Den can radically transform your life. Again, that's kfmline.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. The first question I have for you is, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling kind of lost or unsure of what their purpose is?
Oh, you're asking that? Okay, yeah, sure. If someone that's unsure of their purpose, they just have to do some soul searching. You have to figure out what it is you want in life. What is your goal? What are your aspirations? What is it you're looking for? Are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for a good job? Are you looking for someone to keep you warm at night? Is it something that simple, or is it something more extravagant? So determine what it is what's tangible. What is it that you're searching for? And then you have a goal to reach. A lot of people are lost because they haven't set goals for themselves. The desires aren't there. So what are you searching for? What do you want? What do you need? If you don't know that, then of course you're going to be lost, because you're frivolously floating through life hoping that something happens that magically makes you happy. And you're not going to become magically happy unless you have these goals and aspirations and hopes and dreams that you can tangibly chase after. So figure out what it is you want, figure out what it is that makes you happy, figure out what you want to go after, and then I think that you will no longer be lost.
I like that. And what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
What was holding me? Fear of failure. Fear of failure. I never wanted to upset my mom. I never wanted to not achieve greatness, but I've learned that failure is the only thing to help you get to that next level, to help you learn from your mistakes. And so many people hold on to negativity, but I've learned from my negativity, and that's why I was able to write this book and put my knowledge into it, because every experience that I went through, I turned it into a positive. No matter how negative it was or how terrible it might have seemed or how hurt I was, I learned from it, and I learned that fear is nothing. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I went skydiving with my baby sister a couple months ago, and I loved it. It's just a matter of just doing it, just knowing what you want and going after it. And once I learned that fear is nothing, it's just a abstract thing that's blocking your vision. It's like having a blindfold on. You're not going to progress until you get that aside. So just not being fearful. That's what was holding me back. And once I got over that and knowing that failure is it's not an option. It's going to happen. We're all going to fail. And once I was able to accept that, I was able to become who I am today.
Very powerful. And this will probably be a challenging question, but what are your 3 most influential books and why?
One of them my mom actually wrote, and it was called Surrounded by Inspiration. And it was just inspirational quotes for every day throughout the year. And it's just a beautiful thing, just, enjoying life and enjoying God's beauty and whatnot. So that's one of my favorite books. Another book, I haven't read in a while because I've been busy writing and I don't like to read when I'm writing. Another book, what was the last book that I read? I guess the last books I read were my mother's books, Intuition, In Our House, Perception versus Reality. So I would probably say my mom's books just because I have such a close connection to her and and her life and whatnot. And they were just very inspirational books. So yeah, Surrounded by Inspiration, In Our House, and Intuition, definitely.
And now, scenario here for you, and imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Wow. I would tell him to always go after what you want. Don't ever be afraid to go after what it is you've been dreaming of. If you have a vision and you have something you want to go for, then go for it. It's just simple, like I was saying about the failure. Don't be afraid to fail. Go after whatever it is you desire. You're either going to obtain it or you're not. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's one of my favorite quotes. You got to take those shots. You're either going to miss it or you're going to make it, but you'll never know if you were going to make it until you take that shot. So that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self, and I would tell my 20-year-old self not to pass up on something that's great. If you think you have something that's great, hold on to it. That's a chapter I have in my book, Moments versus Milestones. So just enjoy the moment as opposed to looking for reaching and attaining a certain milestone or saying, hey, I've been in this relationship for a year, or hey, I've accomplished this. Enjoy the moment, because I've passed up on some pretty amazing women by trying to, look down the road and say, I wonder if I'll be able to achieve this with this woman, as opposed to enjoying the moment that I had with them right then and there and just seeing what's going to happen. So, yeah, enjoy the moment, live in the moment, and not search for those milestones would be my advice to my 20-year-old self.
Oh, man. Good stuff there. And we could wrap up, final question here, just kind of reflecting back on, where you were many years ago and then to where you are now. What would you say is your philosophy on dating and successful relationships?
Philosophy on dating is that you have to take a chance. You will never know if someone was the person for you unless you take that chance. And I think so many people, men and women included, are guarded. They guard their hearts because they've been cheated on, or they've gone through this negativity or this horrible relationship. But you have to start with a clean slate, and you can't let the negativity from the past influence your decisions and the choices that you're making in the present, because then you won't have a promising future. So I would just say, take a chance. Go out on a limb. Give someone a chance. Give all of your heart. If you're going to love and you're going to take that next step into a relationship, don't give a quarter of your heart or half of your heart. Give all of it. And love with all of it. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
All right. Aaron, thank you so much. That was awesome. That concludes the knowledge round there. What's exciting you now today? Like, what's getting you out of bed in the mornings?
This book is keeping me busy, Andrew. I've been all over the U.S. now doing interviews. I'm in Orlando for 2. I have one in the morning, and I got to fly out for another one. I've already started working on the second book in regards to This Is Why You're Single. I won't say too much on that, but I'm definitely writing that. But yeah, and I do acting as well. I used to do Tyler Perry House of Pain, so I'm working on some projects in the acting world as well. But I stay busy. That's keeping me driven and keeping me getting up pretty early every day. So yeah.
All right, awesome. And do you have a website that my audience can follow up with you at?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Please, guys, reach out to me. My personal website's yearnlamont.com. That's AARONLAMONT.com. And then, of course, I'm on, Instagram and Twitter, and my handle is at I am Mr. AC. Again, that's at IAMMRAC. So I am Mr. AC. Reach out to me, ask questions or, tell me your thoughts. I would love to hear from all of you guys out there.
All right, awesome. Aaron, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story and a lot of the lessons up from your book right here on the interview with me today. I appreciate this.
Andrew, thank you for giving me the time. I love your show, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.